Well, welcome again to another CheapWineFinder.com podcast. Domain Dave starting this thing off like I always start this thing off and telling you that for the last 15 years, we've been doing at least 3 wine reviews a week on the CheapWineFinder.com podcast. And the last couple of years, when we're done writing it up, we plug in the microphone and we do a podcast and go a little bit more in depth about things. And well, here we are again. And today we've got a Costco wine. This is the Kirkland Signature Willamette Valley Pinot Noir 2021. It's $12.99, which is a really good price for Willamette Valley Pinot Noir. I've been to wine tastings and talked to French winemakers, and they always go, yeah, that Willamette Valley is a very interesting place. And since Pinot Noir, Burgundy is the home of Pinot Noir, for them to say someplace in northern, northwest United States is actually really good is a compliment. Now, this is a wine from Precept Wine and Spirits. They are the largest Northwest wine company. Family-owned. Sarah Cabot is the winemaker here, and she's in charge of their Oregon wines. Precept has Gouret, a bunch of different brands. They do a lot of store brands. They've done brands for, Trader Joe's, Aldi's, and Costco before. They're a really good winery. Sarah Cabot was a winemaker at boutique Willamette Valley wineries, making, 5,000 bottles of wine and that type of thing. Small batch. Money's no problem. Money and time is no problem. And she took the job with Precept. And these are wines that got to come in at the price. And time is. If Costco says they want this for February of 2024, well, you got to get it done by then. And I've got a link to an article. She actually, I think it's $7.50. It's a Wine Insider Journal where they do an interview with her. And I suggest the link is on the website on the review. And she kind of goes into what the differences are between a boutique wine and a mass-produced wine. And with a mass-produced wine, with a boutique wine, she might use something like yeast, which you don't normally think of. Natural yeast floats in the air. It's on the grape skins normally. It falls into the fermenter when you're doing it. It's just there. And it's thought that's the yeast that is perfectly suited for the grapes. But if there's not enough to finish fermentation, you got a problem and you got to do something else. So when you're making mass-produced wine, you can't have that problem. You have to use the best yeast, commercial yeast you can use. So there's different things. You can't cold soak. You have to. As soon as fermentation starts, you get the grapes, you start fermentation. You can't wait. There's no time to mess around. You got to make decisions that are not going to be risky. There are open top fermentation that happens with Pinot Noir a lot, and it's a technique from France, and it allows the grapes to get more concentrated, the juice, and come together quicker, and it just makes it a more full wine. But if you're making hundreds, thousands of gallons of the stuff, you really can't afford to do that, because if something goes wrong, you're going to lose a lot of wine. And there's a lot of these little things that she's doing safe things rather than the things that make a wine $65. Now, she didn't go into where she gets the grapes and that type of thing, and that's another story too, because that's important. But she has vineyards that are contracted, and she tries to keep controls on that. If they're growing too many grapes, that means that the grapes overall aren't as good. So she has to keep an eye on that, because vineyard operators want to grow as much so they can sell as much, but to make the best wines, you have to cut it back a little bit. So there's all these different things. I would suggest going into Sarah Cabot's her name. You can look her up on Google. And she's interesting person who kind of goes into details of what it's like to be a mass-produced wine maker. when you made your name for yourself with these very exquisite small batch wines. And I'm going to take a sip of this, the Kirkland Signature Willamette Valley Pinot Noir 2021. And it... and it's actually really, really good. If you want to get into Willamette Valley Pinot Noir, this is an excellent place to start. It tastes like a Willamette Valley Pinot Noir. It has a lot of the good characteristics that have. It's a good wine. Does it have natural yeast? No. Does it have cold soak fermentation? No. Is it do they leave the stems in with the grapes? That's always, they think there's more flavor there if you de-stem them, or you have if you have a machine picked wines, grapes, that's not as good at doing that. But are those things you actually care about when you buy a bottle of wine? Is that worth $50 to you as opposed to a $12.99 wine to a $65 bottle of wine? It might be at some time, but if you're just starting out, and I don't think it will be, I think there's a place for both. But take another sip, because this is a tasty wine. I am a fan of Willamette Valley Pinot Noir. It's one of my favorites. And this is good. This is a good wine. It doesn't matter that it's not boutique. It doesn't matter that she had to make quick and easy decisions rather than go the hard route to get a little more subtlety and complexity in there. It still tastes good. Still tastes real good. So that's it for me, Domain Dave, cheapwinefinder.com, Kirkland Signature Willamette Valley Pinot Noir 2021, a good way to spend $13 on a Pinot. Like It's Really Like a Podcast, I got more wine coming up. We're starting to pick up. We were really cheap in January. We're kind of picking things up a little bit in February. I think I'll have another post for the Super Bowl, and I'll be talking to everybody in a couple of days. So adios, keep it cheap, and stay safe and warm. Bye-bye.